Hey, you guys. Uh, somebody told me about this story, and I'm looking at it. Um, I don't know much about the people, but I do know that when I looked at my parents, my mother gave me some information, and I posted these videos to my other site, my alternate site called ASMR, I think, for dummies. But it shows some letters my mom sent and some things I kind of figured out about how they were doing it. And she sent me a document that shows, them mentioning kidnapping and whether they're using assumed names or not. My mom's letter told me that they were at Lockbourne Air Force Base, and my father was teaching there, and they were using assumed names. Okay, and the federal government was flying them around. So they work for the federal government. And I looked into this other thing I was just showing you. I think it's AIEA, which is the atomic. It's like an atomic commission attached to the UN. And our government does these tricky things where it either goes through the LDS Church or it goes through AIEA. Sorry, it's hard to say. So in that way, they are enslaving children. So AIEA, so it's so hard to say. Let me show you, and then we'll go back to this one. AIEA. All right. No, that's not it. It's oh no. Hold on a second. Okay, this is it. And this is why people that have worked for the UN under their authority, under IAEA, have been, dumping their documents all over Los Angeles. Because IAEA is up to some very disturbing things. And they are listed as the main authority on a lot of these child guardianship documents, claiming that they're offering them full authority over these children who are deprived rights to know where they came from, deprived any rights under our Constitution, and then sold like through the Z1 fugitive program, where they pretend that these children who've done nothing wrong except be born are under some kind of fugitive status where it's reciprocal, meaning they don't have the right to work because they're not U.S. citizens in some way. I'm not exactly sure. It's called a special juvenile status. And then as you grow up, they keep you in juvenile court so no one can figure it out. So I think I told you about the marriages and everything, but IAEA, when I just looked it up, I thought I spelled it right. IAEA. There's another organization that's very similar that goes through. So IAEA is the International Atomic Energy Agency. But there's another agency that is an education agency that goes through Hawaii. Oh, IAEA, Hawaii. It's a census designated place in Oahu. IAEA. Okay. It's also an education, like some kind of education. Let me show you. IAEA offers a wide spectrum of education and training activities. So Eisenhower created IAEA. God, it's so hard to say. I keep thinking EIEIO, right? Let's see. Now, I was trying to find this one that I was looking at. Okay. So Boyd and Stephanie Householder. Now, at first, I don't think everything didn't happen, but I think you need to look at history. And you should join. This is really, I've never told you to join anything that would cost you money. But you get a 2-week free membership on Ancestry.com before they require you to pay anything. And if you start looking around through family lines, just pick a family line that you think is interesting, Roosevelt, for example, or Frederick Douglass. Look through the family line and look at some of the designated job descriptions. There's a lot of slaves in the background, both white and color, black and other slaves and indentured servants. And one of the people in this one family line, her name was simply Lucy, which reminded me of the cult of Lucy. So when I saw that their name was Householder, I thought that was interesting. Okay, so I want to look them up, but anyway, I'll just go over the story. This is and I'm not saying the story is true. I don't know who these people are. I'm not saying that, but they were convicted of some things. So they weren't convicted, they were just charged. So far, in America, unless you are being held as a slave, like I am, you are innocent until proven guilty unless you're owned by AIEA. And then you're guilty because they want your organs. Okay, that is just how they're doing it. But in this case, I'll just go over the case and talk about it, but I won't say what the case is. If it's true or not, I don't know, because I haven't seen any of the evidence. I don't know who these people are, so I don't want to disparage their names. I just want to say, let's look at it. Boyd and Stephanie Householder. Okay, in these ancestry documents, I saw a lot of things called housekeeper or keeper of the house. How do you keep a house? And when you go back through family lines, very famous family lines, you'll see things like Slaymaker, S-L-A-Y, maker. All right, slay is to kill. So when I see a name like this, I instantly go, okay. I'm going to go onto Ancestry.com and see who these people are. And I'm also going to go on Truth Finder and see if I can find these people. All right. They were charged with more than 100 felonies in connection with the sex abuse investigation recently undertaken by the Office of Missouri Attorney General Schmidt. Now, what's weird is in one of my family lines, Schmidt is listed, the last name, who assisted a local prosecutor. Schmidt called it one of the most widespread investigations into allegations of this kind in state history in a news conference in Jefferson City on Wednesday, saying that 16 victims had been identified so far. Think about the number 16, you guys. You have to look at these numbers. All young girls and young women. He said there are no words to describe the mix of sadness and disgust that he felt upon learning of the allegations of wrongdoing, which he called extensive and horrific, in a prepared statement issued shortly after the press conference. So this play, what I'm about to talk about, might be triggering to some people. If you have small children in the room, maybe this is the time to either turn off the sound and just read it for yourself, or ask your children to leave, because this might be sensitive. I'm going to be talking about sexual abuse right now. So if you guys have any sensitivity to it, just be warned. Charges filed against Boyd Householder, I still think the name include 1 misdemeanor child molestation charge and 79 felonies, 9 counts of statutory this word, 6 counts of this word, 6 counts of this word, 56 counts of abuse or neglect of a child, and 2 counts of endangering a child in a ritual or ceremony. Oh, dear. So I don't know what these people are practicing. I haven't really looked into it, but on one of my sister's background checks, she uses multiple names. One of her background checks, it said Lunatic Farm, 5150, and Satan. The word Satan was actually on one of her background checks as like under notes or something. That I thought was weird. If you want to see these videos, I can place them onto this channel. I had them on the other channel, so I don't know if you're allowed to place things twice or not. So 80 charges in all. The accusations of wrongdoing date back to 2016. All right. His wife, Stephanie Householder, faces 22. Okay, there's that number again. 22 is a, it's the number, the agricultural number for harvesting. All right. For farming, they put a lot of this under farming or livestock, right? Felony charges, including 12 counts of abuse or neglect of a child and 10 counts of endangering a child in a ritual or ceremony. A news release from Schmidt's office detailed some aspects of the allegations, citing felony information documents that collected forensic interviews, statements, and extensive documentation seized from Circle of Hope property during the course of its investigation. I mean, does anyone know where that is? Circle of Hope. The documents cited by the Attorney General in Boyd Householder's case allege repeated incidents in which the man is accused of having oral sex and intercourse with a victim under the age of 17, as well as several incidents in which Boyd Householder played one or more. Oh dear, sorry about that. I'm not gonna say that part. Physical abuse accusations in the felony charging documents included allegations about restraints that involved Boyd Householder pushing his knee into the backs of several victims, applying pressure to them via certain pressure points, handcuffing or restraining victims' hands and feet, and forcing victims to hold the push-up position. All right. Sort of reminds me of my father's book, where he talks about the most important thing of all is restraint. And then he goes on to say that human experiments, he can't be responsible for the torture of, just talking about experiments under Jungian theory. I think restraint, the word restraint, when women are going into plastic surgery clinics that are really, CIA black sites or FBI black sites, and getting their upper jaw cut off and restrained backwards, their whole head being restrained backwards through these implants. I think restraint, anytime you see it in it, you should just think about what it means, right? The Attorney General's office also said Boyd Householder was criminally charged in relation to allegations that he slammed victims' heads or bodies against walls, slapped or hit victims with his hands or belt or other instrument, shoved a victim's face into horse manure, and poured hot sauce down a victim's throat. This sounds very odd too. One count related to an allegation that Boyd Householder forced a victim to drink at least 220 ounces of water, then run a mile until she vomited, then forced her to run again. Sounding more and more like my childhood. Another count details an alleged incident in which Boyd Householder instructed several victims on their best way to cut their wrists in order to kill themselves. Oh my goodness. So the Householders were taken into custody in Vernon County, where they currently reside. This is the Householder's daughter. She's very beautiful. My goodness. Shares her reaction. The charges come after activism spearheaded by the Householder's estranged daughter, Amanda Householder. She's gorgeous. I think anyone would listen to her. Former residents of the Christian Girls' Home. On a call from her current home in California on Wednesday, Amanda Householder said she had been working to build public awareness of accusations of abuse since 2015. She did a TikTok, YouTube, and other platforms, and she should. She's beautiful. My kids last night put it kind of perfectly. When I told them my parents were in jail, my oldest son was happy because he knows how hard we worked. Okay, guys. This is more on that Householder stuff. This is just a background checker. It doesn't mean it's true. I don't know. This is the same name, though. Householder Boyd. And it's in Utah, South Lake City. Collateral items, specified vehicles unknown, specified transportation equipment unknown. Now remember, the nomenclature of slaves and children and humans are vehicles, and I'm just talking about military nomenclature. Organs are fixtures, fixtures and furniture. And so, but specify collateral. So they're somehow getting collateral. Here we go. This is the part that's really, I just want to show you. And I don't know if this is him. This is just somebody with the, sharing that name, Householder. Specified general intangibles, including proceeds and products. So this to me looks like a theft. Collateral is specified transportation equipment, right? This is just weird, I think. Scarlett O'Hara Drive, Beaver Dam. Come on. That's weird. It's just weird. Bricker Haven, PH. You can look that up if you want. Pueblo de la Montana, 02. It's not normal. It's not normal. All right, we're going to go up here. And these are just the registries, He's saying he's director of something at this place. Okay. For K&B Drywall. All right, now I don't know what the legal meaning is of the word drywall, but I just found this interesting. I'm going to show you some other things. Okay, you guys, so we got the Agape. This is the one with the Circle of Hope. I just want to show you this. B. Householder, Circle of Hope. Boyd, 015 Century. Look at this. First Sergeant Marines. Okay, that's it. What else do you want me to say? Eagles 1. Remember, Eagle 1 is, like the chief officer, executive officer of the federal government. They say Eagle 1 when they're doing military operation. Sergeant GT Marines. Okay. So we got a criminal record. Boyd Householder. Pursuing, taking, killed, possessed or dispossessed of wildlife illegally. Okay, remember that sometimes not everything is, you have to look at what wildlife means. You have to look at what wild horses means. And why is Bureau of Land Management selling wild horses for castration? What does it mean? Why are they doing it? Because there is some kind of agreement that if people are kept in these guardianships and conservatorships, they have no rights. They don't have rights to manage their own sexual behavior, their own health care, their own assets, because they're illegally filing things to steal the assets. So if you want to look at pursuing, taking, killed, possessed, or dispossessed of wildlife illegally, they're not showing, usually in these Let's see, show details. All right. Crime classification M. I don't know if that's misdemeanor. Class A. Remember, we got, I pity the fool, right? They pity the fool because we are stripped of our rights before we're ever born. We're put on an FBI dead list, when we're 2, and stripped of any legal rights in America. So he's guilty. Crime classification MTV. I don't know what that means. You guys can look it up and tell me if you want. Misdemeanor, class B. Fine collection center. Guilty. These are Gunslinger for God, Humansville, Missouri. I am the CEO and founder of Circle Hope Ranch. Husband to my best friend. Father, grandfather, separated, independent, fundamental Baptist. But he's also Dean of Staff at Agape's Boys Ranch, which, if you know the legal meaning of the word agape, might interest you. So, now we're not saying the only crime that I could see on here. Okay. First child. What the hell does this mean? First child, Clifton Edward Householder. And then we've got some interesting little addresses. Virginia, Florida, Missouri. But we've also got those addresses in Utah that I think are interesting. I don't know if it's the same person, but I do think they share these addresses quite a bit. Okay, this reminded me of Greece. Greece is the word that you heard. We got Sandy, right? Sandy. This is Sandy, Utah. We've heard the word Sandy so many times. Sandy, Utah. And this says White City. It also says Poppy, that we learned from, opportunity zones in Oz, Wizard of Oz. Poppies, 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 right? Just, because they call people flowers. I just find this thing called White City very interesting. Then it says Reliance Drive. They teach self-reliance by taking things that don't belong to them. Humansville. Draper, Utah. Boyd Householder. Again, Empire Drywall. K&B. And they're not showing the other, the other documentation of Circle Ranch, but I still find this to be an interesting name and interesting things on this. I don't know if it's the same person, but if it is, it's kind of interesting, I think. Employment history. I mean, remember, if somebody's military, they can do anything they want. They can, when they talk about addressing things, I mean, when I was looking at these child court records, the guardianship records, they were talking about how somebody was, had Indian blood, and they needed to address the Indian blood. And the right stolen from Indians. Okay, and I told you how they use the laws, but they're doing it to innocent victims who don't have legal rights. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair. And they know, you know, this one too, Beaver Dam. Remember I told you that in the Texas Commission, they were calling women beavers and cougars and saying that they, you know, fill the hole, the dry hole, right? When they're taking people's bones. And then there'll be like 14 injectionists in the room. That's a lot, you guys. It's a lot. So anyway, I just wanted to show you this. I think it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of other householders, so it might not be the right person. This person says they're, you know, this person's dead. Also in Sandy, Utah. Right. So if they're dead, I always find it, you know, Jack Householder. So why is it Jack Householder if it's Boyd, right? It's just weird. But always, like, if you're doing these background checks, you should always look into the dead ones too, because sometimes you can find some interesting stuff here. Filing number, if you guys ever want to look that up, just to see what it says. I don't know much about drywall, but I know about cars and vessels. So, employment dates, Riverton. Householder, Patricia. Specified general intangibles, including proceeds. And, I mean, this to me is weird. I did see a criminal charge on one of my background checks that I did related to squandering a rare resource or harming it in some way. And I mean, I still don't know why, you know, I was chosen for the torture, but I'm sure there's some reason. But I know I'm not the only one. I just looked at hundreds of guardianships where it looks like nobody has rights, and they're all under that AIEA, which isn't great. All right, you guys, that's it.